Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Aparuta de sangamatassa tavara e sodavanta vamunjan tu satang. So this afternoon we have this opportunity to reflect on Dhamma. The way it is, apparent here and now, timeless. So reflection means looking inward. It doesn't mean just trying to understand the words, but how the words affect you personally. Because words have an effect on our minds. We hear good words, we feel like this. We hear bad words, we feel like this. And who is the witness to how we're feeling? And so we usually identify as my feelings, I am the witness, and this sense of I am the body, this person sitting here in the temple, is how we tend to experience the world that we have to experience through a body, through the senses, the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue. So experience is based on the changing conditions that we identify with. So when we talk about Dhamma, Dhamma doesn't change. It's the changeless reality of here and now. But out of ignorance and not really looking closely, just by operating from habits, conditioning, from our biases, our pretensions, our prejudices, we tend to see the world through a very narrow lens that often distorts our lives into a realm of suffering. So really considering how the world is a realm of suffering. What we see, hear, smell, taste, what we think. Our bodies are all about changing phenomena. And that's our experience, is with changing phenomena. And yet we long for peace, permanent happiness, because we like that. We like the idea of being permanently happy and peaceful. That's a very ideal, a beautiful ideal that almost all human beings hold to and want. But what is peaceful, truly peaceful and doesn't change, is overlooked. We don't reflect on Dhamma, we reflect on my feelings, my views, my opinions, my perceptions, or what we think about others. So seeing the world as it really is, seeing the world is a realm of suffering and change. everything that has a beginning and has an ending, and everything that we think, see, hear, smell, taste, touch, feel, emotions, is about change. And change can be for the better, things can get better, but they can't sustain being better. They don't, they because of the law of change, better is not something that can be stable and fixed. So consider this. So what are you attached to? Why do you suffer here at Amaravati or in your home life or working life? Because, it is a changing experience. And many of us, when we come to monastic life, we're very idealistic. So we hold our views about how a monastery should be, how a teacher should be, how a monk should be, how a nun should be. And because we're inspired. So inspiration gives us that impetus. It's necessary at first. It brings us here, but then the reality of living anywhere, whether it's in a beautiful paradise or the monastery or your homes, things change. And change can also be for the worse. Because better is progress. I believe in progress. Progress, we think everything's getting better and better. And then we think of the future when we all can go and live on Mars or some beautiful place like that. We'll set up perfect communities of peaceful, loving friends and live forever in happiness. And we can expand our lives to live 500 years. These are thoughts or ideas, and that's all they are. They're just ideas. They're not realistic. Where we can think, well, when I get an increase in my salary, or I get a title, or I think things will be better. And so we think in the future our lives should be getting better and better. And that's what we hope. Just reflect on this, that hope is about the future. Hope is not now, because, it's an idea, hoping for the best. You don't hope for now because it's here and now. There's nothing to hope for. But the future, you can hope for success, fame, finding the right partner, having a beautiful house, traveling around the world. All these are hopes and ideas that we can live for, but recognize that hope itself is a word, is a condition, is an experience, not based on reflection, on Dhamma, on the way it is, but on the idea that the future holds this sense of hope. Or maybe you're suffering from chronic depression where the future seems hopeless. But hope is another word in the English language, and it's what we want. We hope for the better, that Amaravati will get better and better, and in the future, next year they're going to rebuild the monks' accommodation. They'll take down the existing monks' vihara, and we hope that everything, the building project, will not be too inconvenient for our quiet lives here. And we hope that the buildings are successful and practical, and that the monks then will live happily ever after in better accommodation. Then we can be sarcastic, because that is sarcasm. So that's the future. Right now it's like this. And so you're not trying to pass judgment on how it is that you individually experience this moment. Some of you are interested, some of you may be bored or disagree or whatever, but we're not all going to feel the same. But we can be aware of what we're feeling is like this. The feelings, the conditions that we're experiencing through this form, through the sensual, the senses that we cling to, are like this. So this statement, like this, is a way of reminding yourself, be here and now. Can you imagine a Kalika Dhamma, timeless? Can you form any image of timelessness? I can't do it. And yet the Dhamma is timeless. It's not in time. So just try to imagine timelessness. You can kind of define the words, but can you imagine it, have an image, or describe it? So this is a challenge to you to just try to reflect. If the Dhamma is timeless, we don't even know what that is on a personal level, because we're aging and we get old, and that's all about time. The world is all about time. This is 2025. Next year is 2026. You can't stop it. You can use different calendars is about the best you can do, but according to the one we're accustomed to is 2026. So we can imagine, what's going to happen in 2026. But if building the monks' vihara, if that is in time, that is obviously in time. It's a time condition. You can't imagine rebuilding the bhikkhu's vihara without time, because the bhikkhu's vihara is in time. All our thinking is time, is about time. Every word, every concept in any language is about time. Space and time are our reality. So when we live for the future or we regret the past, we feel guilty about mistakes we made in the past. But what is the past at this very moment? You can remember things you've said or done that you regret or feel guilty about. But where is the past now? It's memory. Remember yesterday or the day before or last year. We have memories of when we first came to Amaravati site in 1984. So what's happened to 1984? It appeared and then went into 1985. And that's the way it is, that the conditioned realm is about incessant changingness. And we're clinging to this and expecting to find permanent peace and happiness in something that has no sustainability. And so we suffer from life because we're clinging to illusions, things that are not really true or real, that arise in the present and pass into the future. So when you question like this, you begin to no longer try to operate from opinions and views and ideals. You can let go, and this is the way to timeless reality. What is apparent here and now is put it into a one-word consciousness. It's apparent here and now. You know you're conscious. And that's a fact. That's not an ideal or a Buddhist teaching. It's the reality that at this moment in time and space, consciousness is consciousness. Does it have any quality? Does it have any color? Does it have any sound? Does it have any form at all? And so we look around to find what's conscious, where consciousness is. And that's the big subject of the age. So, because nobody knows what it really is. And yet it is us. All of us are the reality of consciousness. When we go unconscious, does consciousness disappear? When somebody faints, somebody goes to the unconscious state, does unconsciousness really cease? This is another question. Can consciousness cease? When we die, when the body dies, does consciousness cease? So these are all intelligent questions to ask yourself before death happens or you become unconscious. But the conditions can disappear. When somebody actually dies, what happens to their consciousness? Well, consciousness never dies. It's Dhamma. It's reality, ultimate truth, absolute reality. Without consciousness, there would never be any space, there'd never be any forms. If consciousness is just trapped within the physical body, then the sense consciousness changes. Sense is not due to the consciousness itself, but the senses deteriorate. We go blind, deaf, lose our sense of smell. We lose our memory. We can lose anything that we've acquired. But consciousness, we didn't acquire it. It's not ours as in any personal way. It is ultimate reality, or Dhamma, apparent here and now. And as you really put forth the effort to establish trust in that, trust that reality, Dhamma, is here and now. But Dhamma doesn't have a form. It's not. You can't make a Dhamma jaka look like a Buddha, Rupa. So they have symbols, a Dhamma wheel and things for Dhamma, but the symbols are also very impermanent, can change. But the reality of Dhamma is apparent here and now, timeless. So this is a very important reflection. If you want to let wisdom guide you in your life, because it's through this reflective ability that human beings have to be the watcher, the one who observes rather than the owner of the changing conditions. The suffering we experience is always, we're identifying being the owner of our suffering, our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, our memories. So is Dhamma personal? It has no personality. There's no form, no personality, no emotion, but the realization of Dhamma, apparent here and now, timeless, is what I encourage you to reflect upon during this time, the vasa, the pansa that we're experiencing through these forms. So is consciousness for you and me different? Where is Sumedho's consciousness? Ajahn Pasano's consciousness? Is it different? Does it have nationality? Does it have gender? No, it's where gender, nationality, differences, all the opposites that we can create in our minds cease. I remember contemplating about good and evil ceasing in consciousness, where my cultural condition is to believe we want goodness should reign. We want everything to be good and right and fair and just. That's how everything should be. Because that's right. But right has an opposite called wrong. And they cease in consciousness when you're just abiding in pure conscious awareness. The opposites, the dualistic opposites and extremities of thought and conditions cease there. And what's left when you let everything cease? Then you understand peace. Like you can't, trying to describe nibbana, the Pali word nibbana, or the Sanskrit nirvana. In terms of words, it's eternal peace, which are more words. Freedom from suffering. So when the Buddha was enlightened, he still lived many years onward in a changing body with many experiences, some marvelous and wonderful, others are horrible, because that's the world that we have to understand is not the reality, not permanent happiness. We can never find permanent peace or happiness in the world. So when you understand the world as it is, you have this insight into letting go of it, not destroying it. You're not trying to get rid of it, because then you're judging the world as something you want to get rid of. But it's not about destruction. It's about letting go, a sense of non-attachment, which you can realize for yourself. And that's nirvana, realizing it for yourself. So it's not something you can imagine, but something you can actually realization of Dhamma, its ultimate reality or absolute reality. There's an interesting time now, because with the internet and YouTube and all that, there's so much interest in religion, in meditation, in Buddhism, and things that were not very readily available before the modern technology. So there are these atheist videos on YouTube. There's a lot of criticism of religion, and people who call themselves atheists. So is Buddhism an atheist religion? And you can look at it because we don't believe in God. We don't have a God. And if you don't believe in God, then you're an atheist. These are all assumptions one makes through the intellect. And then you ask yourself, what do you mean? What do you mean by God? You know, you're supposed to believe in God, but what is it? Is God really a man? Or is God a judge? You know, he judges. I was taught my Christian upbringing that God loves us all equally, but judges us separately. So this is, you know, how do you figure that one? Because God is what? What is it? That's the question to ask. What does it mean in terms of reality itself? If it's a old man with a white beard, well, that's just an image. The best, you know, at the time of establishing Christianity, and Judaism believes in God, so it was very much the way of visualizing Dhamma, or ultimate reality. What are you going to call it? So in the English language, you take the word God, which is actually from the German folklore. So God is a made-up word in itself. But what is it pointing at? What is the word ultimately pointing at? Is ultimate reality. God is ultimate reality then. Then it's not a matter of believing in symbols of ultimate reality, but in realizing it for oneself. So different religions have different names for ultimate reality, usually personifications of males. Like Allah, when you think of the Muslim, God is Allah, you always think of a man, because that's the way we've been conditioned to think. But is Dhamma male or female? It's where male and female cease. That's where we're all equal, is in Dhamma. So rather than just criticize religion because they try to teach morality or good actions, generosity, but the idea of religions tend to be presented as something you cling to. You must cling to Buddhism or Christianity or Judaism. You know, and that very clinging creates into an experience of suffering. So, do we cling to Buddhism? You know, should I demand that you believe in everything Buddhist and cling to Buddhist identity and become a Buddhist and then look down on other religions? because they're not Buddhists, they're not wisdom teachings. We can pass judgment upon all other religions. We are conditioned to do that. So it's, even in the Buddhist world, one forms views about Mahayana, Tibetan, Zen, Theravada, and clings to their views. And so then we feel a kind of sense that our religion is the right presentation, what the Dhamma really taught, and we can find fault with Tibetan Buddhism or whatever, but because it's not exactly, but at the heart, it's the same. Tibetan Buddhism, Mahayana Buddhism, its aim is pointing at what is apparent here and now, timeless. Ehipassiko, come and see for yourself. So I always like that. It's come and see, don't just believe me. A sense of invitation and encouragement to find out for yourself, not just grasp the words of a teacher or a religious convention. Upanayika Dhamma, you have to look inward. You're not trying to find Dhamma as something you can see, hear, smell, taste, touch, think, or feel. The realization is that actually you are that Dhamma. So it's trying to find a real Dhamma teacher, true Dhamma. All this is we can cling to these perceptions. But when we're going out looking for the perfect Dhamma teacher and the perfect situation, the best we can find is another person who inspires us. But that's not realizing Dhamma for yourself. You can be inspired by what teachers say. But Upanayika Dhamma is looking inwards, not at a wise teacher, expecting him or her to enlighten you. And Bhajatang Vetidapo Vinyuhi, to be realized individually through wisdom. So wisdom, whether you think you're wise or not, how many of us really think we're really wise people? It sounds very conceited, even arrogant. I'm a very wise teacher. This sounds even to me like an arrogant announcement. Because wisdom is apparent here and now. And we can all learn from wisdom that is natural, not created through words or philosophies or religions. So Bhajatang is to be realized individually, like even the Buddha in the scriptures, the suttas, couldn't really enlighten his disciples. He wasn't going around, didn't have a magic wand to suddenly tap you on the head and you're enlightened, or even to say, with words that enlighten you. The Buddha's words, the scriptures, are directional signs. I've said this many times. There's if you really understand the Four Noble Truths, they're not doctrines. They're not things you grasp and believe in. They're directing you to look inward. Do not just study philosophy and religion and metaphysics at some famous university, but to look inward, whether you're literate, illiterate, high IQ, low IQ, or whatever. It doesn't matter. The Dhamma is apparent here and now. And as we begin to trust this, and this is an act of trust, or saddha in the Pali word. Trust this. Trust that what I'm saying is the directions. It's not doctrine. Trust that Dhamma is here and now. And you are that, not personally as an individual, but as ultimate reality. And that's oneness, that's complete wholeness, perfection. Where when you look at yourself, you develop critical minds. I can't see where I'm perfect as a person. But trusting in awareness, conscious awareness here and now, I trust that. And that's the liberation from delusion, the letting go that the Buddha advised to let go, not destroy, but it's like a relaxed state of just witnessing experience, life in the form that you've let go of. So you're witnessing what happens to this body, the emotions I feel in life, and the perceptions that arise, memories of the past. You're witness to it. It is about change. What doesn't change is the Dhamma. So that is perfect peace. It's not a created state that you can create through controlling conditions. That your true nature is blissful, peaceful, loving, rather than a man or woman who's caught in views, opinions, ideas that tend to separate us and cause wars, friction, conflict. So I offer this for today's reflection.